Quick thing before we get started. If you disappeared from your agency for 30 days, no calls, no emails, no Slack, would it survive? Would it thrive? Would it decline? If you hesitated, I get it. I spent 12 years building my agency, and for the most part of that, I was actually the ceiling. Every decision, every client, every fire, all me. I wrote a book about what actually needed to change. It's called Operator to Owner, and it lays out the 5 identity shifts every founder has to make to stop being that bottleneck. So go to operatortoownerevolution.com. That's operatortoownerevolution.com and grab your copy. Hey, Park, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Well, I am Park Howell, and my customers, my clients call me the world's most industrious storyteller. And I love that tag because, it's a little braggadocious, so I do it tongue in cheek. But I have been using story for over 20 years, really focused on it to help build brands, help build agencies and so forth. But I realized, Jason, I've been in the advertising, branding, marketing world for 40 plus years, and we were always using storytelling, but we never really were intentional about it, just intuitive about it. And so I started studying story aggressively starting back in 2003. And now this is all I do is I consult, teach, coach, and speak on the power of story and how to use proven frameworks to help anybody from agencies to clients to leadership have their messages land right the first time, every time through these frameworks.
Cool. How'd you get started in the agency business?
God, I was never good working for anybody ever. So as a kid, I was always had my own little lawn company, and mowing yards and whatever. And then I got into the agency world right out of school and I graduated from Washington State University. And the first 5-10 years I was working for somebody else, and I was always just jonesing to do it myself. And so in 1995, I opened Park & Co., which was a one-man band, me, in Phoenix, Arizona, and then grew to 2 and then to 10 and then to 20 and beyond. And it just kept rolling. And so it's something I've always loved, the advertising world, since I was a little kid growing up in the Seattle area. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Rainier beer commercials, the old classic Rainier beer commercials. Well, those absolutely entertained me as a kid. I was like, I want to do that someday.
You know what? When I was little, what got me into advertising was watching the show Bewitched. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And her husband, she was like a witch, and her husband was an ad man. And I used to love when he would pitch, and he would always do all the work, right? For everyone to remember, he would do I think his name was Darren.
Yeah.
And then
Darren
Larry
Stevens
was the boss. Is that right?
Yep.
Larry? I think
Dick
Larry
Van
was the boss.
Dick Van Dyke was the actor, and he played Darren Stevens. And he was in the agency world.
Yeah. And that's kind of what got me curious. And I too, like you, mowed lawns. I'm curious, what did you charge for a lawn?
Oh my God. Probably $2.50, as in $2.50 way back.
I charged
then.
$5 to $10.
You had a better market than I had, I think. Maybe I charged, I don't even remember. Whatever it was, it seemed like a lot of money to me at the time.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. I'm always curious about how people come up with their pricing, right? Like when my first website, I always joke around, it was $500. And a lot of people, when they started in the 90s, it was $500, or even, up until later on, it was, I was always just curious, very rarely do I see someone come out of the gates charging a ton.
Right.
But to kind of get into the show, I want to talk more about the story. When did you start realizing there was story was so powerful when you're selling business, because for many, many years I would be like, hey, this is your problem. This is what we do. Do you want my help?
Right. I think I just always knew story was powerful. I was never intentional about it. And I really learned that lesson in around 2003 when we got one of our largest clients at the time, and it was Goodwill. Goodwill, there are franchises all around the country. and Goodwill of Central Arizona was one of the largest franchises, and they had hired us to come in, and we did a whole bunch of research for them, and then we created a TV campaign with two 30-second spots. The first spot pulled unbelievably well, Jason. I mean, they did same store sales the next month compared to the previous month after the campaign started, and had increased sales across the board by 42%. And people were coming in actually talking about the commercial. Then we ran the second spot in that campaign, and it did nothing. It pulled zero. And I'm looking at this, and the client even said, well, that was a waste of money. Let's pull it off and just run this one. And they ran that one spot for about 4 years. And I looked at them after I started studying story and what does it really mean and how do you put them together. I went back and looked at those two spots. The first spot was perfect storytelling, setup, problem resolution, and followed all the beats. You could even boil the hero's journey down to 30 seconds and seeing it all happen in there. It was just intuitive. The second one was just like a creative masturbation. We did it from the agency. We said, this thing's so awesome. We're going to win a bunch of awards for it. And bupkis, we got nothing out of it. That's when I realized that if we became intentional in our script writing across the board and all of our content, set up problem resolution and using these beats to story, would we be more successful in our campaigns? And it proved itself out. It really did work that way. And then I went, did more studying about it. I was lucky that our son Parker was going to film school at Chapman University between 2006, 2010, a very prominent film school. And then he spent a dozen years in Hollywood, and now he's in Austin, Texas. But when he was there, I said, send me your books and your recorded lectures when you're done with them, since I'm paying for them, because I want to know, what does Hollywood know about intentional storytelling? And that's when, of course, I found The Hero's Journey and Blake Snyder's 15 Beats to Story and the Pixar Way and all of those. And that's when I boiled it down to our 10-step story cycle system.
What are the 15 beats? I've never heard about that.
Oh, Save the Cat. Fantastic book if you want a real fun read. And then he's got Save the Cat Goes to the Movies. And Blake Snyder, was a screenwriter that sold more family-oriented screenplays in the 80s, early 90s than any other writer in Hollywood. And what he essentially did is took the hero's journey and he boiled it down to his own 15 beats that goes into every great, family kind of story. And so I followed those, looked at them and go, well, okay, hero's journey does this. Blake Snyder does this. I'm going to do this in business. And it's really fun to go and read first Save the Cat, and then Save the Cat Goes to the Movies, and sit down with, I don't know, he has 40 different movies in there, and you can follow right along and you see every single, beat of the story in there. And then our son Parker, we had a lot of fun with this, and you and I were talking about this. You're in Durango. We would go skiing for spring break up in Telluride, and when he was studying film, we would sit down at night, watch movies, and compare them to the 15 beats. And my God, you just see them happen over and over and over.
So what are give us an example of a 15 beats? Like, he has a problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, you introduce your protagonist, that single character that has, something at stake. You have, as Campbell would say, the call to adventure and the refusal of the call. So they're called out to do something and they're like, no, I can't possibly do that. And then something happens. It goes to later in the beats, like the bad guys close in. So you're about 2/3 into a story and here they are, they're coming to get him and he barely escapes. And then it's like, the call of death, essentially. You're thinking, all right, he's good, it's over. But no, it goes one step deeper. And now they're really, facing down the guns of the people looking at him. And you're thinking, there's no way he's now going to get out of this predicament. They face death. They overcome death. And then you go to the beginning. I don't have all the rest of the beats in my mind right in front of me, but it is the hero's journey made simpler to follow, less theoretical and more very practical about this has got to happen on such and such a page of the script, and then this has got to happen by such and such a page of the script. And so it's formulaic or a form, and then it's up to the storyteller to make it their own.
I gotcha. I like that. Yeah, it just it reminds me of, I remember someone explaining it many years ago to me. It's kind of like, Luke Skywalker has a problem. He needs to face Darth Vader, but he has a decision. And then Obi-Wan or Yoda is kind of the guide in order to, push him along. Is that kind of part of those beats or whatever?
Same thing, and it all feeds back to the hero's journey. And what I always found so fascinating about the hero's journey is that George Lucas kind of followed the hero's journey when he wrote Star Wars. So, I mean, it's an absolute perfect, sequence following the hero's journey. But a movie that does it equally as well when people didn't even know about the hero's journey is The Wizard of Oz. And if you watch The Wizard of Oz and you watch Star Wars, and you could put them on a split screen, you will see the exact same story told.
Who was the guide in Wizard of Oz? Is it the Tin Man or the Scarecrow, or
what's that?
Like, who would be the guy? Like, who would be the helper?
Glinda, Good Witch of the North. She's the ultimate guy. She's the Yoda in that. The Tin Man, Scarecrow. That's all the other characters in Star Wars.
I haven't seen that movie in 30 years.
You watch it and then watch Star Wars, and you're going to say it's the Sam Dame movie. Think about it. Luke starts on Tatooine, right? And he's on a farm out there, and it's a dusty, miserable red planet with 2 moons. And he's like, there's something bigger for me out there. Where does Dorothy start? On a farm in Kansas. It's dusty as hell, right? And then the inciting incident in Star Wars is when Luke comes back and sees that the stormtroopers have killed his aunt and uncle, and there's nothing left for him again. That's when he has the call to Luke, you've got something bigger to do. No, I can't possibly do it. Then he gets in a speeder, and where does he go? He goes to Mos Eisley. Remember the bar with all the crazy figures in it, right? Yeah. Well, what happens to Dorothy when the tornado spins her away into her now very unordinary world? She lands in Oz and a bunch of these crazy munchkins running around. It's the same concepts. And as she starts having to go down this path, as does Luke, and on their way, they start picking up allies that are going to help them overcome all the same stuff. So, it's a story that's been around since the beginning. Gilgamesh was written, basically is the hero's journey, and that was carved out of cuneiform tablets. So it's a process or a template to story that is embedded in all of us. It's how we make meaning out of the madness of being human beings, essentially.
Hi there, agency owners. Let me ask you, are you ready to scale your agency without increasing your overhead costs? If yes, then you need to know about E2M Solutions. Now, E2M is the #1 most reliable white label partner for agencies. They specialize in web design, WordPress development, e-commerce, SEO, and content writing. They basically do all the heavy lifting, which frees you up to focus on growing your agency. Now, here's the best part. E2M's just not another vendor. With over 10 years of experience, their team of over 300 experts has a track record of delivering for more than 300 agencies. They're your strategic partner. They deliver on time every time, so you can focus on what you do best. Now, E2M's mission is simple: to help 500 agencies increase their revenue and profit margins with white label services that actually work. And to help you get started, they're offering a special deal, 10% off for the first 3 months, but act fast because it's only a limited time offer. So head over to e2msolutions.com/smartagency to check out their transparent and their flexible pricing. Trust me, if you're ready to grow without burning out, E2M's the partner you've been looking for. That's e2msolutions.com/smartagency. Go check them out and tell them Jason Swank sent you. I love this. And now I need to go watch Wizard of Oz. And just kind of a side note, I was such a huge Star Wars fan. I actually tricked my wife into naming our firstborn Luke so I could go, Luke, I am your father.
There you go. There you go.
So, but so let's talk about, because a lot of agencies are telling the wrong story,
About
because
themselves?
about themselves, which is a whole nother route. Like they talk about, I'll say like, what makes you unique? What makes you different? Oh, we have the best people, process, portfolio. We care the most. We're customer centric, right? Like bullshit. Like you believe that, yes, but there's no separation. You're telling a horrible story that I would never watch. So, we were kind of talking, kind of the pre-show. I'll be your guinea pig.
Yeah.
How can we tell a better story with the framework that you've developed over the years?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the and, but, therefore. And the reason why so many story agencies out there just kind of cling on to life, if they would, is because they don't stand for anything. They haven't really communicated what they stand for that makes them stand out. And it's got to first start with that agency principle. Why are they doing what they do? You ran an agency, right? And then you sold it. And I was listening to some of your other shows. You were an accidental agency owner. You built, I think, a spoof website for a buddy of yours that looked like Justin Timberlake. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then all of a sudden someone else said, hey, can you do one of those for me? And hey, how about one of those for me? And then next thing you know, you're building an agency. So was there ever a moment in your life in that agency where you were really struggling? You're like, first you built something, you got some momentum, and then it starts collapsing on itself because you got to that point of, well, what does Jason Swank stand for? What?
Probably for 10 years it was, that, right?
Yeah. And so, you got to do some soul searching. So here's one way, and I'm going to take you through it real quick here. And then all of your viewers and listeners, just have a pad and paper down if you got it. I'm old fashioned. I still do it this way. And I'm going to teach you the and, but, therefore narrative framework, something you can use that clarifies every complex message you've ever had to give, and make it crisp, clear, compelling, and very focused on your audience. Real quick, the and, but, therefore is not a framework I developed. I learned about it from my good friend, Dr. Randy Olson, back in 2013. Randy was Harvard PhD evolutionary biologist turned USC film school maker who now writes and teaches scientists and academics how to use what he learned. What's that?
A biologist?
Yeah. A PhD biologist, evolutionary biologist.
Talk about going to school for the wrong thing.
Well, he was very good at that, but he also realized that people weren't understanding science, and he was very much the scientist for the people, saying, we make all this way too confusing. And he was intrigued by Hollywood, so he got his degree. He wrote, directed, and produced 3 documentaries on climate change and global warming, but his main work is teaching scientists and academics how to use story. So he, in his second book, introduced me to the and, but, therefore framework. And he is the first one to say, too, that it's been around forever, like the hero's journey, but just get intentional about how you use it. It's essentially setup, problem, resolution. It plays off the 3 forces of story of agreement, get people nodding, yes, we have a shared vision. Contradiction, here's why you haven't achieved that yet, the problem you're going to help solve for them. And then therefore, the way forward, the statement of consequence. So you always want to place your audience at the center of the story. So let me ask you, Jason, we're going to do this real quick with you. Do you want to do an ABT focused on this podcast or focused on your agency mastery program, or what would be best use of your time right now?
Do the agency mastery.
All right, agency mastery. I'm going to ask you then, who is your number one audience persona? And I always say one because it's the Pareto principle that one persona typically makes up 80% of our revenue.
So like an agency owner that's plateaued and just banging their head against the wall? Would that be a persona?
Owner who is plateaued?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. And sorry, folks, I'm running here. My brain can't keep it all in one. So next up,
Okay.
what do they want relative to your offering, even if they don't even know your offering yet exists? It's kind of a way to foreshadow your call to action. So what does this agency owner who is plateaued want?
They want more. They don't want to work all the time. They want more freedom.
Less work, more freedom. And why is that important to them?
Because originally they got into the business like me, thinking, I want the freedom to be able to pick and choose, but the business owns them. And they want a business that they own.
Okay.
They don't want to make all the decisions. They're the biggest bottleneck.
They're the biggest bottleneck. Okay. So now let's go to the but statement of contradiction. This is what you're going to help them solve for.
Okay.
What is their biggest problem? Why are they not owning this?
Probably because they don't have clarity of where they want to go. And they can't communicate that to the team. So then all the decisions are routing through them, making them the biggest bottleneck.
Okay. And what negative emotion does that create in the agency principal?
You mean like a frustration, like a feeling?
Yeah.
Frustrated. They feel trapped. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's go to the therefore statement of consequence. How are they going to feel once they get this clarity?
Certainty, maybe, like they know the path that they need to go do, or and I feel like a lot of people know the path that they need to, but they need someone else to kind of guide them and say, yeah, that's the right path to go do.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, it's about you.
Yeah.
How do you and Agency Mastery help them get that?
So we help them figure out what the biggest bottleneck is, show them the clarity, remove the bottleneck so that they actually own the business and the business doesn't own them.
And then how do you even go about helping them find these bottlenecks? Is it through your show here? Is it through master classes? What is it? A one-on-one?
So it's mainly through community and frameworks. So a lot of times they see their biggest bottleneck through other people in the community based on something that they ask. Because a lot of times, you think you have a challenge. You go, I have a leads challenge. And then you dive into it and you're like, you don't have a leads challenge. You don't know who the hell you're going after challenge. Right. Like, and they see that through other people or sometimes honestly, like they'll give a great advice to another agency, but they're not doing it anymore. They only did it for a split second and it worked really well. And then they go on to this shiny red object, right? Like, so like our thing is you don't want to climb the mountain by yourself. Like I can go out the mountains in my backyard, I climb it all day long by myself, but it's way more fun, way more enjoyable, easier to climb with other people. So that's our whole premise.
And safer. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's
so like when I start sliding down the mountain, they can pull the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, hey, Jason, let's not go any higher. I was watching your podcast the other day when you were up on top of the mountain and you guys stopped right before going up to the peak, which I thought was a good call because you said, we want to live to climb another day.
Yeah.
So,
we couldn't tell where that snow it didn't have anything under it.
Yeah. And away you go. So smart move. Yeah. Okay, so I've just quickly pulled in all of this intel, starting with your number one agency. Our audience. Here's one other question I have for you, then, Jason. If everything you just told me, and we were going to kind of map out this little story using the ABT, you had one word for the theme of that story, what would this theme be?
Oh, that's a good question. One word. Why you got to make it one word?
Well, because what I'm trying to do is get you and everybody watching this to focus your attention on a singular problem solution dynamic. What we often do is we get way too complicated and we're trying to solve way too many things at one time,
I have
and
it.
we lose our audience.
Focus.
So you would say focus.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, there's no right or wrong here.
Yeah.
I would say, and you had said the word earlier, freedom. You want freedom, but you don't currently have freedom. Therefore, I'm going to help you get freedom.
Okay, well, I switch it.
We call that a conversational ABT. When in doubt, so let's use focus. You want focus, but you don't have focus. Therefore, we're going to help you get you focused. Well, focus to me is a few steps away from what is the ultimate outcome. Focus is a verb. I want the emotional outcome. So quite often I will look at an emotional word. You got to have the focus to get the freedom. Yep. Ultimately, I want freedom, but I don't have freedom. Therefore, I'm going to get freedom by working with you. Does that make sense?
It's a good coaching moment. Yes, freedom.
Even as simple as it is. And here's the way to think about this. Jason, if you were all of a sudden on stage in Phoenix, Arizona, in front of 5,000 agency owners who don't know you from scratch, they don't know you at all, and you get up and you say, as an agency owner, you want freedom, but you don't feel like you have freedom right now. So the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how to get freedom. Everybody in the room immediately knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Trouble is, we, even in the agency communications world, we don't introduce that theme till way down line, and our audience is sitting there going, what the hell? I don't have time for this. What's he talking about? So we like to start with that vacuous ABT, the conversational ABT, and now build it out for your audience. So this is not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm winging it here with you. But from my notes, I'm going to start, and this is as if you're talking directly to your audience. You are a proven agency professional who has built quite a remarkable company. And if you could just find some more clarity on where you're going, then you would have the freedom of owning that agency versus it owning you.
I like it.
And I want you to do what you're doing right now is nodding. That is called a statement of agreement, saying, yes, I agree with that. But you're frustrated because you are currently trapped in an agency that doesn't have the crystal clear direction it needs in order to provide you the freedom you so desperately seek.
Yep.
Therefore, imagine, if you will, you don't have to use the word therefore. You can, but it's just there to, as a building, as a Lego building block for this, Therefore, imagine 6 months from now when on a Wednesday you are water skiing with your kids because your agency is on autopilot running itself, making you money. How do you do that? Agency mastery, the place that provides you the community and the frameworks you need to find the focus and the clarity so that you own your agency and it does not own you. Something
Very
like
cool.
that.
Yeah,
Something
yeah. I like that. So state what they want and why they want it, how they get it. Yeah, I like that.
And you always keep it totally focused on them. And here's the default that happens every time. The owner of the brand, product or service, or the agency will always introduce their offering directly after the therefore. Therefore, at Agency Mastery, we are going to do this. I say, no, pump the brakes. Keep it about them. Get them to picture already having what it is that they don't currently have because they worked with you, and here's how we do it. And the interesting thing about this, we'll unpack just a couple things. So it's written in a very specific way. We have if-then clauses in there that is a pattern-seeking thing that our limbic buying brain loves. Cause and response, cause and effect, I should say. We use the word because, the conjunction word in the therefore or in the but statement, but you're super frustrated, trapped by your agency because you don't have the focus. You lack the clarity. Harvard did a really remarkable study in 1978 about the power of the word because to get people to do stuff. And again, plays to this cause and effect that plays to our problem-solving brain and goes, oh, I get this. And then the therefore statement, keep it focused on them, get them to picture the outcome when and if they only do this with you. It's all emotion-driven. You only start really bringing logic into it when you start talking about your own product or service offering. Lead with emotion, and then back it up with the logic and reason to support the premise of your ABT. Then one last thing I want to call out for all of you is that I mentioned that the ABT works on the three forces of story, of agreement, contradiction, consequence. Well, when you do it right, it builds what I call the three forces of trust. That is, you are demonstrating that you understand your audience, you appreciate what they want and why that's important to them, and you empathize with them as to why they don't currently have it. They're going, oh, yeah, you get me. You've been there. You know what I'm talking about. Therefore, let me show you the way forward.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, it's more about focusing on them rather than focusing on yourself.
Exactly.
Like I was speaking at an event last week, and they asked me, they were like, oh, hey, can you write down some things about you so they can introduce you? And I'm like, I was like, I don't want, just make up shit. Like, I don't want to focus on me. Like, I'll just, whatever. But yeah, I mean, even thinking about, like even when I went on stage, because I was talking about like this AI operating system, like how they can build it. And so I even opened up just trying to get their attention. And I think that's half the point of, telling a story. I just said, look, I've created, now I'm giving away my opening line. Now people are going to know it, but that's okay. But I literally said, I built the world's first AI agent to read your mind.
There you go.
Right. And then it just hooked them. And they're like, how'd you do that? I was like, because I know all of you are thinking, are you screwed? Because of AI, right? Like I could read your mind. Like I created this AI agent to do that. But so it was a lot of fun.
Well, here's the thing that I'd, again, like your agency viewers to take away from this is go and write one. In fact, get your principals around the room, teach them what you just learned or have them watch this show. And then each of you individually write your own ABTs about the agency and then share them. Yeah. So you're going to get a tremendous insight into how the rest of your people view where you're going. And quite a lot of clarity is going to come out of that because you will ultimately end up writing one and but therefore for the entire agency that everybody is co-written that can help you go forward. Then number two, the next presentation, the next proposal pitch that you are going to make, go do your due diligence on that prospect and write an and but therefore for them to get you completely focused on a singular problem solution dynamic that you are going to be solving for that prospect. And what I like to say is, agencies, and I've got caught in this trap too, you go in and you try to pitch capabilities. Well, everyone has the same capabilities. I'd rather have you pitch abilities. Show them, bring value with you through the and but therefore, starting with that. And don't just talk about what you can do, show them what you can do by doing it for them, regardless of if you get the business or not. I like to say, prove, stop pitching.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks so much, Park, for coming on the show. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, well, come on over I've got my own show, The Business of Story. Every Monday, I've got a new story artist on there. Been doing it for 12 years. You can check me out at businessofstory.com. Come on over, hit me up on LinkedIn. Let me know that you saw me on Jason's show.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, and everyone listening. If you guys enjoyed this episode, like it, share it, subscribe. And until next time, have a swank day.